So I had some really interesting conversations today on Facebook surrounding, the fact that I'm obviously a racist, right? And I wanted to point something out, something that I find kind of disturbing when people talk about slavery. People give off the vibe, I guess is the best, most accurate way to put it, that they believe slavery started and ended with the Atlantic slave trade. So I just want to point out that since the dawn of recorded history, in every corner of the planet, almost every culture that we know of has practiced slavery in some form or another. From the Native Americans to the Japanese to the Aztecs to the Norwegians, all right? Everybody has practiced slavery in some way, shape, or form. So for 6,000 years of recordable history, going back to like Babylon, slavery's cool. We're doing slavery, right? I mean, that for 6,000 years or so of recorded history, we know this. Every culture on earth practiced slavery. And then in the last 200 years, evil, white, Christian-y types started saying, maybe this isn't a good idea. And then by 1806, it was outlawed in England. And then by 1860 odd, it was outlawed in the United States. And then these bastards had the unmitigated gall to use their navies and their militaries to go around the world and stomp out slavery. Bastards. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. For all of human history, think about it. From the Roman Empire, to the Egyptians, to the Aztecs, to the fucking Sumerians, slavery was common. In Africa, slavery was common among Africans. White people did not create the slave coast by themselves. Black people took part in it. Just like they took part in the Muslim slave trade. The slave trade that went from Africa to Muslim nations. And mind you, that slave trade was 100 times more barbaric, more brutal, more widespread, and longer lasting. Like 100 million people died just in transport in the Muslim slave trade. Part of that has to do with, as a rule, if you were male and over the age of 11, before you could be taken into slavery, your dick and balls had to be chopped off. Now, this wasn't like a medical procedure. They just put the little kid's shit on a stump, whacked it off, and decided, well, if he lives, he's a slave. If he's not, kick him in the ditch. Brutal. Brutal. Now, no slave trade is good, but if you were a slave back in Africa in them days and you could decide you wanted to go east or west, I don't think you'd be choosing the Muslim slave trade. That doesn't make the transatlantic any better. But God, man, I mean, 1500s, right, is when slavery really started in the West, like, the traditional what you think of as slavery. And then within 300 years, it's outlawed almost worldwide by the people who just kind of got into it 10 minutes ago. And they're the bad guys. Really? And it's not like slavery is totally outlawed. Slavery is still practiced today. Yes, in a few places in Africa, for sure. In Libya, thanks Obama. But white Christians, the people who have done the most in world history, apart from taking part in it, have done the most in world history at stomping out slavery, still to this day do more than any other culture group on earth when it comes to stomping out slavery. I don't see blacks in America or in Africa demanding that the Muslims give them reparations for a much longer and more brutal slave trade. You know why? Because the Muslims they're not guilty about it. They don't care. They don't care. They'll do it again. They'd like to. They're still doing it in Libya. There is a steamroller that is rolling over the West right now. And on that drum, on the front of the steamroller, it's written in big letters, white guilt. The problem is with that steamroller is it crushes everybody in the West. Keep that in mind. Have a good day.